So let's move on now to our next topic, and it's a corker. A Labour MP has deleted her video celebrating Black History Month after GBNews revealed that her footage contained a celebratory collage, as you can see on your screens now, of convicted murderers and sex offenders. Dawn Butler had shared a spoken verse video where she celebrated African freedom fighters, but the clip included photos of several criminals and highly controversial figures. Well, our national reporter Charlie Peters got this exclusive scoop and joins me now in the studio. Charlie, it's an astonishing video. Tell us about the original post from Ms. Butler.
Well, before I revealed that there were these pretty controversial characters, well, worse than pretty controversial, convicted murderers and rapists in this video, it was already a fairly curious poem that Dawn Butler, the Labour MP for Brent East, had uploaded. She spoke about how she was the chosen one. She was the first one, referring to, we believe, her racial heritage. And she also made comments about how white people are choosing to tan. Why are they trying to get burnt skin, e.g. like hers? And this video was already dismissed as potentially racist and quite extreme before we revealed this more concerning later element, which is that several people in her celebratory collage of faces associated with Black History Month did have extremely dark pasts. One of them, Assata Shakur, is a convicted murderer. She's on the run still, is in the FBI's most wanted terrorists list. She's been on the run since 1979. She killed a police officer. Khalid Abdul Mohammed, he gave a speech in 1993 when he said that Jews were the bloodsuckers of black people. He also described the Pope as a no-good cracker, which is a derogatory term towards white people. There were other cop killers in that list, and also within those photos was a man called Eldridge Cleaver, another member of the so-called Black Panther group from the late 20th century. He was convicted of several rapes, and he described rape as an insurrectionary act. He said he was trampling on the white man's laws. All of this was included within Dawn Butler's video, which she posted on social media, speaking over what other critics have described as a black supremacist video. One critic, Alka Segal Cuthbert from Don't Divide Us, a campaign group, said that the government's silence on this was astonishing. She said that the footage reveals some deep-seated bigotry towards white people, and it's very concerning that she has included these portraits. Well, when I raised this with the Labour Party yesterday morning, they didn't offer a response. They declined to comment. They didn't want to distance themselves officially and on the record from this footage. They said I should just go to Dawn directly. Well, Ms. Butler didn't respond to my request for comment, but after we broke the story this morning, she did delete the video, re-upload it without that footage. And again, as I should stress, the video was already very controversial before we made these exclusive revelations. But she's also issued a statement that I think you've got, Martin.
Yeah, and so she made a concession by removing the terrorists, the rapists, the anti-Semites and the cop killer from the video. And she did issue a statement. Before I get to my panel, I think it's important, let's read out this statement now from Dawn Butler. Once she'd removed that video and edited it, she said this: "I was recently informed that a social media video I posted this week included some individuals whose views and actions I strongly oppose." She then went on to add, "As someone who takes great pride in championing equity, equality and diversity for all communities, who wants a society where people live in peace and harmony and the eradication of racism and a world free of violence, especially women and girls, I have edited the video." Charlie Peters, there's one key word missing from that statement, and it's the word sorry.
Yes, it's not an apology. She's not apologising for the footage she's uploading. She's not apologising for the statement about burnt skin, which I think possibly more controversial than the figures that I've revealed, because it could be, Martin, that she's just made a mistake. She's uploaded these photos into her compilation. It could be made by a staffer, although we should ask, where have they found those photos? What's the source of these individuals? Why are they being praised? But there's no apology whatsoever, and there's also silence from the Labour Party.
Charlie Peters, another cracking scoop. Thank you very much for sharing it with us on the show, and let's discuss this now with my panel. Still in the studio, the former Conservative MP Ranal Jayawardena, and of course the former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards. Paul, I'm going to have to start with you again, because this is another story where the kind of trouble is from the Labour Party. Dawn Butler, she was very controversial for a long time. I think Keir Starmer did a good job of gagging her these past couple of years. Every time she was on the Jeremy Vine show, she seemed to put her foot in her mouth. She became an accident waiting to happen. Now Dawn Butler's back.
Well, I don't think she made these videos, did she? This is not her handiwork.
Oh,
she's
come on.
Hang on.
You'd be all over it.
She then, puts it up on social media without checking. This is, basic politics 101. Do your due diligence and make sure there isn't this sort of hostage to fortune. When you rightly pointed out that some of these characters are absolutely beyond the pale, she took it down and said, I'm sorry, and that's the end of that. She's admitted that she did a foolish thing. And she's not standing by it, she's taking it off social media. But doesn't it just make the point? They should just check. Any politician being out there on this sort of thing needs to do the due diligence, check out who these people actually are before sticking them all over socials.
So there we go, Randall, a simple admin error.
Well, it's double standards, just like the donations that we've seen to the Labour Party right now. If this was a Conservative MP, they'd be calling for resignations, they'd be asking for a standards inquiry in the House. But now we're just meant to forget about it without even an apology. And I do think it is deeply troubling, once again, that the identity politics that some people in the Labour Party hold so dear is once again at the fore. We've seen in Birmingham this week two black British heritage people standing for the leadership of the Conservative Party almost without mention of their heritage, versus a Labour Party here which is obsessed by identity politics.
Let's flip this, Paul. An admin error, you say, it should have been checked. Let's just flip this. Let's just say a Conservative posted a video that was purely and provably Islamophobic. There was a rapist who'd raped a black person. There was a cop killer who'd killed a black cop. There was a terrorist who'd blown up a mosque. You wouldn't be saying this was an admin error. You'd be demanding straight away that this MP should stand down, and perhaps rightly so.
Well, it would come under the same degree of scrutiny that we're now applying to it. But my point is that this is not a deliberate act by Dawn Butler to cause trouble and dismay. Having identified it, thanks to your investigative journalism, she's immediately acted and taken it off.
She hasn't said sorry, she just edited out the rapists.
I think she's done the right thing by dropping it, and I would say to her, you should have ddone the due diligence in the first place.
Maybe the Labour Party should drop her.
No, it's not a Labour Party issue. This is an individual
MP. She's a Labour MP.
She's a Labour MP. There have been far less serious things that have gone out that have been seen the Labour Party demanding the resignation of any Conservative who's done anything like this. You have to concede, Paul, this feels like she's got out of jail.
Disagree. She's going to come under a lot of scrutiny for this, and she has got to now look at her own internal processes as how this happened in the first place. It's obviously unacceptable. And, she didn't make the video, did she? But she's obviously repeated something without checking.
It's gone out under her name. She's a member of Parliament. If Nigel Farage's done anything,
and that's why
even remotely in the same ballpark, she'd be leading the pitchforks.
She's not standing by it and saying, yes, these are great heroes. She said, these are terrible people. I don't stand by them. What they've said and done is horrible. And I've taken it off my social media feed. So she's taken swift executive action once it's been pointed out to her. I think any reasonable person would do the same.
We'll have to remember that get out of jail card when it's a Conservative who does a similar gaffe in the future. Thank you very much, Paul Rano, and of course Charlie Peters. Another fantastic scoop from you, my old son. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. Now, I've already read that statement out. I wouldn't put you through that twice. Let's move quickly on. Now, here's a story that simply will not go away. Labour's Donegate sleaze scandal, it just rumbles on. Today, The Times revealed that the man at the centre of it all, the multi-millionaire Lord Ali, lent Labour peer Baroness Uddin a whopping 62 grand to help repay wrongfully claimed expenses. Now, this comes after Lord Ali himself was placed under investigation by the Lord's Standards Watchdog for allegedly failing to register interests. And this was supposed to be the party of change. But does this just prove that actually they're all the same? Is Starmer already losing the grip of his government? Well, joining me now is my panel of the former Conservative MP Ranil Jayawardena and the former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards. This time, Ranil, I'm going to start with you. This story should have been put to bed by now. It just goes on and on and on. Yesterday in Brussels, Sir Keir Starmer meant to be resetting the relationship with Brussels. Even friendly journalists were asking him only one thing about this ongoing rumble: his solution to pay back £6,000. What about the other £101,000?
Well, I know. I mean, it's a really bad political judgment here, and it's extraordinary they've chosen to do this in such a short space of time. I mean, it took the Conservative Party, regrettably, 14 years to get to this sort of position. It's the hypocrisy that really gets me, though. You know, actually, he's declared everything properly. So's every other Labour MP, as far as I'm aware. So they've done everything by the rules, but it's the hypocrisy. Angela Rayner criticised Boris for a holiday, then she took a free holiday. You know, Rachel Reeves taking money, Keir Starmer taking money, having criticised other Conservatives for doing the same. So it's the hypocrisy here that's the problem. They can't say with one hand Conservatives shouldn't accept donations and then take hundreds of thousands of pounds themselves. So to now pay back £6,000 really demonstrates they don't get it. They don't get it at all.
And Paul, isn't that the issue? It's like if you stand on a platform of we are the party of morality, we're the ones who're gonna blast the sleaze out of Westminster, we're gonna drain the swamp, and yet here we go again with echoes of Animal Farm. They've all got their snouts in their trough. They're exactly the same as the previous lot. In fact, Starmer's taken even more longer.
I mean, you will be asking all the Conservative Party leadership contenders, presumably, about all the hundreds of thousands of donations that they've received over the last few weeks. I mean, as you say, Randall, no rules have actually been broken. And unless we dramatically change the way we fund our politics and ask the taxpayer to stump up for some of this stuff, then we do have a set of rules which says...
The taxpayer does them, but the taxpayer pays their wages.
And not a single one of those candidates has ever criticised a Labour MP until now, until this issue.
So do you want to change the rules then? Let's say that no donations allowed, no gifts,
my contention is the opposite. The Labour Party shouldn't be hypocrites criticising the Conservative Party for taking donations.
That no rules have been broken.
I said that a minute ago. I think you listened to me a moment ago.
Yeah.
You know,
the
point is that the Labour Party consistently criticised Conservatives for legitimately accepting and declaring donations for various things related to their work. And now they have said, but it's all right for us because we're
nothing
Labour.
to see then. Let's just move on.
Well, that's exactly Labour's position, and it's wrong.
But the point is, you know, it's like we will not stand for this in government. You know, Boris Johnson's got his gold embossed wallpaper. This is an outrage. And suddenly, you know, Sir Keir Starmer's got free specs. He's going to Taylor Swift with the missus.
I think
it's the same thing.
I think it's a question of scale as well. I mean, Boris Johnson's gift compared to a pair of glasses and some tickets is pretty, you know, different, I would say.
Well, the amount of donations, 107,000 is the most of any political...
Yeah.
Not compared
Starmer's in front. He's a Premier League.
By some way in the last Parliament.
Not compared to some of these donors that are giving money to the leadership contenders.
The figures came out last week. Starmer is the Champions League winner.
Also, I would say Boris Johnson hasn't given any of it back, and Starmer has said that the money he's had since being Prime Minister...
£6,000, that's a decent lunch.
Well, that shows that it wasn't that much money then that he's received compared to these hundreds of thousands.
Paul, you must concede this is just now becoming a perpetual hangover. It's a cloud over the government. An attempt today to throw a story out to distractors was the Chagos Island, which
come on, you're not suggesting that
giving away
was
territory.
That was just merely a bit of media management, and this was a major strategic decision in British interests.
Well, maybe
as a result of years of diplomacy, they maybe just throw this out as chaff.
Maybe no matter what you say about people like Mandelson and Campbell, they knew how to manage the press. You think at least the Labour Party is having a nightmare. They can't get a good headline, even out of media organs that willed them into power.
I don't believe in 5 years' time, when the election comes around, anybody will even remember this.
You seriously believe that?
I think it's absolute froth. I think it'll just come and it will go.
But then why is he repaying £6,000?
Well, he's obviously took a view that as Prime Minister he shouldn't have done it, and that's fair enough.
So he accepts that it was wrong?
As Prime Minister, yeah, that's his. He's a very honourable man. He's a very decent chap. And
so the £6,000
it's a bad idea.
The £6,000 bit was bad, but the £101,000 bit wasn't.
I think there is. I mean, to be fair, there is a difference between what you were doing in opposition to what you do as Prime Minister, and I think that was the.
So the leadership candidates, they're fine then because they're in opposition.
Well, I think. We'll see. Let's put them under the same scrutiny. Some of the money we don't even know where it came from.
What about the £62,000 given to Baroness Udin we found out today?
It wasn't given, it was a loan. And
okay.
Wahid Ali wants nothing from the Labour Party. He's just a genuine nice man who happens to be very rich.
Just a philanthropist.
Yes, I mean, what does the Labour Party got that he could possibly want?
Well, you tell me. He gets a pass to Downing Street. He's like swanning around Downing Street.
He can go to Downing Street anytime he likes, and also he's a member of the House of Lords and has been for 25 years. There's nothing we have that he wants. He is genuinely helping out his friends, and I think that's entirely reasonable.
Actually, I'd agree with you on this. I think that Lord Ali actually is not the story here. I think, he's a perfectly decent man by all accounts. I don't know him well.
He's a lovely man.
But,
nice man.
The point here is actually the current politicians in the government. That's the story. It's the people who criticised one party when they were in government for taking donations who are now happy to accept them themselves. That's the story here.
And isn't the point, like Angela Rayner, for example, was frothing at the mouth in opposition about freebies, for the Conservatives. And there she is, Angela Raver, going off to Ibiza, 836 quid freebie in a penthouse in New York on New Year's Eve, popping the corks, every inch the champagne socialist.
Well, she's allowed a holiday, and if somebody
pay for a holiday,
pay for it the same as every other person in Britain.
Well, that would be the taxpayer paying for it, which you don't agree with. This was a private donation from somebody she knew. That's all right, isn't it?
But why criticise Boris for having a free holiday then? If it's suddenly all right, why did you criticise Boris?
Well, I think she's entitled to a holiday.
I think
there we are.
That if somebody different rules for Labour.
Everyone's entitled to a holiday. Everyone's entitled to go for a night out.
This is not taxpayers' money, though, is it?
Who can forget Michael Gove dancing? I'm trying to still forget it.
In fact, that was a wonderful moment, wasn't it? I can all remember it well.
Everyone's allowed a night out. Everyone's allowed to let their hair down. Everyone's allowed a holiday. But this, you have to admit, Paul, is a story now about double standards. In opposition, Labour Party...
I honestly don't think it is. And I think once we get into reforming the health service, sorting out the education system,
nobody's talking about that.
Cops on the streets, that's how this government will be judged on those deeds, not the words.
You can say, Paul, and maybe you believe it, you can say, no one cares about this, it's froth, it's chip paper. The fact of the matter is, nobody's talking about Labour Party policy. They're all talking about this scandal still.
I'm not saying people don't care about it, and I do understand people's anger about it, but I will just invite people to look at the detail and see that no laws have been broken, no rules have been broken, and think about what the government's actually going to do for their lives, and that's how the government will be judged in 5 years.
So will the Labour Party, when the Conservative Party wins again, will the Labour Party take this...
When's that happening now?
Will the Labour Party then accept that it's acceptable for Conservative politicians to accept donations?
We'll all be old men by then, I suspect.
But will they?
Maybe at that point, let's have that conversation.
Have they learnt their lesson? Because I think not.
Grey.
I think here we've heard it very, very clearly. It's one rule for Labour and another rule for everyone else. That's the truth.
Do you think that's the point? And also, politics, as you know, is about timing. This all came against the backdrop of axing that winter fuel allowance for £300. £300, a lot of money to 10 million pensioners. Apparently, £6,000, not very much money for the Prime Minister. It's bad timing. It's a bad look.
I think there is a question about the optics on that, and I'm happy to concede that. And I do think, the fact that the pension is going up because of the triple lock, that should have been announced before the calibration of the winter fuel allowance was announced. And that way around, it just looked terrible. I completely agree with that. But, the action is still the right one in terms of the economy. But there needs to be a sharpening up of the act in terms of the presentation. Happy to say that.
Well done, Paul. You're doing very well. In a stiff headwind tonight, has to be said. Paul Richards and, of course, Ranil, thank you very much.